Now it's time for Speaking of Schmodown, the show with a name too good to cancel.
Hey everybody, Jay Wade here with another Speaking of Schmodown. First one in a while. It's been an amazing off season. Really looking forward to Reboot Season 9. It sounds like it's going to be exciting. And we're going to talk about the matches here, the pay-per-view. But to help me out with this, we've got ASG. ASG, how you doing, sir?
Doing good.
Man, yeah, we're about to get into some stuff here with this next season. I'm really looking forward to it, man. It sounds like, from what I've heard so far, the sports aspect of it is diminishing quite a bit, which I'm fine with. I've had a lot of strong opinions on sports and stuff like that, and I'm taking a different approach this season because it is not so heavily sports influenced. And to be honest, that was where my angle was coming from, because Christian was presenting it as a sport more so than anything. Now that that's not the case, I'm not going to be hitting it from a sports angle anymore, which kind of makes me sad because I love sports. But I'm going to take this for what it is because I love it, dude. You know what I'm saying?
Fair enough.
But we're going to talk about the pay-per-view that's coming up here in just a few days. We've got, I am going to call them Claudio Drew until we get an official deciding on whether or not they're going to team together, and then if they do, what their name would be. So we've got Claudio Drew versus Wildberries in the undercard match. I'll go ahead and say right now, I am so excited about the Wildberries coming back, dude. I've been a big fan of Josh McCouga for a very long time, and that is one of the funnest teams in the history of Schmodown. And then what makes them even more fun is that they're not so heavy-handed with the fun and the entertainment aspect that you have that feeling like, well, it's the Wildberries, it's going to be fun, but they're going to lose. No, man, they've proven in the past they can pull out some victories, dude. But I'm also a big fan of Video Drew, and I will say I'm still quite upset, ASG, about that tournament decision with the American Psycho question from about 3 years ago. I'm still upset about that one. It would be great to see Drew and Tom get back together, but if that's not in the cards, then that's fine. But I'm gonna have to pick Wildberries in this one, dude, because I think that both of these guys, Dewberry and McCouga, I think they are so hyped to be back together that they're just gonna knock it out of the park, man. Am I crazy?
Probably. So, in my opinion, Video Drew is far and away 9 times out of 10, the best player playing in that match, and she is just going to, I think, she could beat the Wildberries on her own, in my opinion. So Claudia Dolph is she's an interesting competitor with, she beat Chrissy V last year. So At least she has a win under her belt. And you never know what kind of chemistry they could have for knowledge of certain things in round 2 and round 3. And I think Video Drew's just gonna carry a win.
As soon as you said Video Drew could beat the Wildberries by herself, I mean, I cannot argue with that at all. I absolutely 100% believe that to be the case. However, you know me from the last season that I'm big on the emotional aspect that comes into play in the gameplay. And like I said, I think that this is going to be one of those special moments, dude, that we've been waiting for a couple seasons with the reuniting of the Wildberries. And I don't know, man. I just got that feeling that there's going to be magic in the air when they come out and they play that night.
For sure. I think that
if it goes the other way, though.
Yeah, I think that the Wildberries are going to define that wild card slice. I think I'm hoping they're going to land on it, and they're going to be one of the first people to got to have a Wildberry wild card, you know. So.
I love that. I love that. I don't. Do you have any other predictions on this match? I know from our past conversations that you're not as big on storyline stuff. I understand that.
Yeah, I'm not as big on the fun matches. Like, in my opinion, these are the kind of matches where typically you most likely won't see either of these teams be getting their 3 wins and be contending for a title. So these aren't like necessarily my favorite matches. However, these are the kind of matches where you might see different kinds of stuff on the wheel. I can't imagine Makuga or Dewberry trying to study David Lynch. But
dude, imagine if they did come out and knock David Lynch out of the park, dude. You know?
Yeah. You never know.
Yeah. And speaking of coming out, before we move on to the main event here, let's do a quick prediction on their entrances, because that's another thing that I've really missed and that I've realized is coming back are the entrances into the studio.
Yeah,
always loved those. I mean, I can only imagine Wildberries are going to have that great enthusiasm and the energy, probably a beer. What do you think Claudio Drew could bring out there?
Well, Claudia Dolph, her nickname is Danger, and Video Drew just looks like somebody who can be a danger or go with that danger, death, whatever. So maybe something a little avant-garde on their side, I guess.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun, man. And I like that they that Christian set up a more so a fun undercard to kick off the season, or the year rather. You know what I mean? Get things started for us. Because this headliner it's not fun. I mean, it's going to be fun to watch, but as far as emotional intensity, dude, Smets versus Chandru 3. I want to hear your thoughts on this first. What do you and if you could start with the Spectacular, the ending of Spectacular, and kind of pick up from there if you wouldn't mind, and then kind of give us your thoughts on what you think might unfold here.
Yeah, sure. So end of Spectacular, if I remember correctly, Chandru comes on still angry about being kicked off of Swag, saying that nobody wants to take him on in IG and they're all scared of him. And the person who's going to answer the call. And that's our moment of the year. Kevin Smets coming in. Everybody just hype beyond belief of Smets coming on stage. The return we all been waiting for. Comes on stage, challenges Chandru right there. And that's the match we're coming up. And I'm excited to see Smets. I'm excited to see what Chandru's going to dress up as this time for the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
It's going to be crazy. And then you got the match itself where you don't know what to expect. The last time they played each other, it was a much more narrow IG. We're now since last year, we've had a much more expanded IG. We'll see if that comes into play. So you can't almost got to throw a lot of what you saw previously in their matches out the window and see, this will be the first time we'll see Smets in expanded IG, where I think he's going to excel even more in certain spots.
Yeah. And I'll go ahead and make my prediction before I comment on something Christian said on Rundown the other night. I'm going with that emotion and the momentum, dude. And I think Smets he's ready to. I don't care who you put up against Smets, because I'm a big fan of Chandru. Not only his gameplay, but I'm a big fan of his character work, which is what I'm going to comment on here in a second. But I think Smets, no matter who you put in front of him, dude, he would mow right through them. I think he is more than ready to come back and make a statement and pick up where he left off. So that's my prediction there. But speaking of Chandru's character work, and Christian was dead on the other night when he made the comment how, and I'm a huge fan of John Roca's heel work. Amazing. It's so good. But Christian had commented how Chandru is, no one understands it and executes it better than him. Because, yes, Guy and Roca are amazing at it, but people end up loving them. In Christian's words, no one loves Chandru. And I love Chandru the person, and I love his gameplay, but his character, he's so good at it, I absolutely loathe it. And I felt the same exact way about Brandon Hanna, Hitman. When he first came out and before he mellowed out a little bit with Roxy, which is fine. I'm not saying anything against it, but when he was full Hitman Hanna, I felt the same way, except I feel 3 or 4-fold about Chandru. I love to hate his character. He's so good at it, dude.
See, this is where I gotta disagree. I think he's being, I don't know if he's being held on the leash too much, but in my opinion, a lot of stuff he got backlash for that I'm like, this isn't a big deal, and therefore I became sympathetic to Chandru due to that stuff happening. So, I'm actually, except for the parts where, he's this whiny character, which, obviously nobody likes a whiner.
Right.
So I'm against him in that fashion, but I at least want a heel to have some more hate for the audience. And we haven't really seen that in the Schmodown, where the heels go after the crowd. So hopefully we'll see that a little bit more. We saw a tiny bit of that at Spectacular, and I'm hoping that they build off of that, where it's not just about hating the opponents in his way, but also just hating everybody.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. I'm really looking forward to hearing this announcement that Christian was talking about. He said it's gonna scratch everyone's back, man, and that's a hard thing to do. So I'm looking forward to this announcement. Do you have any ideas on what it could be?
I mean, we have some kind of feeling that the whole faction system with faction points might get eliminated in some way. That it might go back to kind of the old Fife Club and that kind of faction system where you just had a stable that can go in and out and that kind of thing. I really have no clue whatsoever, and especially with player managers, you'll see more of that where people are just managers of players without them being a faction.
That'll be cool. It'll be cool. And that's it for this discussion of the upcoming pay-per-view here in a few days. And speaking of Smetch and Chandru, we're going to kick it over to ASG's technical difficulties.
Thank you. So in this technical difficulties segment, we're going to be looking at matches, either ones that just happened or ones in seasons past, and discuss what those controversies that might have happened in those matches, what the rulings were then, and what they would be now, either with the rule book of last season, or which is what we're going to use now until we get the new rule book. And then in the future, we'll also talk about if there were any changes made to the new rule book. And we'll also talk a little bit about, what the rules were at the time, if there were any rules at the time. So because we have Chandru versus Smets coming up, we're going to look at the previous 2 matches. So we're going to start with the first match. And the first match, Smets had a lead, I believe, in the beginning. And then he got opponent's choice. Chandru gave him Who Said It, which Smets had to check down to multiple choice once, and Chandru stole a question. Then we get to Chandru's spin, who spins, I believe, Spinner's Choice, takes it for Harry Potter, gets all the way to this point in time where it's about to be what would be turns out a 4-point swing. He would have a lead if he got this question ruled correctly as a correct answer. Instead, Smets is able to get the steal and is able to get 2 points. So that's a 4-point swing. And this is the question in question.
What is the name of Dumbledore's baby sister that we first learn about in the Deathly Hallows films?
Ariana.
2 more
No, I
points.
challenge it. He said
He said
name.
Ariane.
He said Ariane first. And then you can't say a wrong name
Okay,
and
that's
then
a
say the right
challenge.
name. I challenge that,
It's
please.
a challenge.
I waited for the entire. Yeah, I mean, you didn't say anything between the two names. I was,
Okay. All right. Challenge is on the board. We
What
will
did he
be
say
right back
second?
with our ruling. All right, we are back. We had our ruling. So the ruling is that Chandra did answer incorrectly. So he answered incorrectly first. And so Kevin Smets would normally get a steal
Can I?
but-
opportunity.
Can I? Because I know the answer.
but I corrected myself before
You
anyone
did
said
correct
anything.
yourself. This has all been factored in. However, the ruling is that it was an incorrect answer. And so, Kevin Smets, because we had to make a ruling on it, we're going to ask you a different question that's worth 1 point.
For me?
Yes.
Okay. Same category?
Excuse me. It's going to be worth 2 points.
2 points.
It's going to be worth 2
Same
points.
category?
It's the same category.
Okay, what was the correct answer on that one?
Ariana.
Ariana. Yeah.
I said okay.
You said Ariana.
Yeah.
And then you stop.
All right.
So as we see there, the question becomes, one, how quickly is Chandru able to correct himself, as well as Rachel's reaction to the first answer. So, Jay, you have been big on these seconds. Do you think, based on the new rulebook, because we didn't have a previous rulebook,
Right.
so based on the previous question at the time, it could have been possible at the time you had no time to correct yourself, because with John Carlos Stanton and that kind of stuff, he might not have been allowed to. So using the new rulebook, if you pull up page 13 of the new rulebook there, or sorry, the season 8 rulebook, we'll call it. It states, if any competitor speaking an incorrect answer self-corrects their incorrect answer to a correct one without pausing or taking as much as 1 full second, it is an accepted answer. If there is as much as 1 second of pause or silence, the self-correction will not be considered an official answer. Exact rulings on this issue will be made by the on-site judge. So, do you think it seemed like there was a pause. Was the pause a second? What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, I've done videos where I've pulled out a timer and timed whether or not they corrected themselves within 3 seconds and whatnot. So yes, I was all over this. Looking back at this clip, I had forgotten all about it, man. According to the most recent rule book that we have, yeah, he got it within the 3 seconds. Absolutely got it corrected within the 3 seconds.
Well, this actually says 1 second, not 3 seconds.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I think it was.
I'm sorry.
I think it might have been Sam that kind of tried to expand it to 3 seconds.
Okay, that is my bad. Hey, that's what happens.
Yeah.
No, I stand corrected. You are correct. I just read it right there. Okay.
Yeah,
well,
1 second is not much time. Yeah.
Because that changes things. Because at the time I was counting it, I was going under the impression, my false impression, that it was 3 seconds. He didn't get that in time, I don't believe. Now, okay. I do want to say, because I would understand, man, because I wanted to make this argument and I can't.
Okay, let's say it was 3 seconds.
Thank you.
I want you to ask you, do you think Rachel's reaction that made it seem, or a cue that he might have done something incorrect should be taken into account for the pause?
No, I do not think it should. Well, let's say that it was within 1 second, and then it came into question because Rachel had indicated that it wasn't correct. No, I don't think that should play a role at all. That's no different than any other official tipping their hat as to whether or not they agree with the answer or not. As long as he got it within the time allowed per the rules, then in my opinion, no outside influence should matter, and any other outside influence is not the competitor's fault, in this case Chandru. But since I mishapped on the time, no, he did not get it within 1 second. I don't think so.
All right, so because of that, Smets won by 4 points. If Chandru was ruled in his favor, it would have gone into sudden death, and we don't know what would have happened there. But the point is, Smets. So we have decided that Smets should have won that match, and he did win that match. So Now we're moving on to Smets versus Chandru Part 2. This was this a title match, I believe? Yes, this was a title match.
I think so.
So, once again, Smets very confident through round 1. He gets to the last question in round 1. So, because this is the last question in round 1, and Smets has gotten all his answers previous correctly, this question is actually worth 2 points, because if he gets this one, he can get a bonus question. So, it's worth 1 and the possibility of an extra bonus point if this ruling was ruled in his favor. However, there was something slightly interesting in his answer on the whiteboard. So let's look at that question.
Bruce Willis plays the character of Thomas Greer in what 2009 comic-based film?
This is a scrap. I mean, you can feel it. You can feel it.
Christian, you can hear it in how hard they're placing their writing utensil onto their tablet.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And Chandru?
Surrogates.
Surrogates is correct.
Surrogates.
That is correct. So
yes, I want to call Winston on.
I'm going to call Winston in. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
What's up,
Winston, man? He's written the Surrogates, so should we challenge that or no? Because the movie's name is Surrogates, I think.
I mean, it's ticky tacky, man. I don't.
You got to give me a.
Yeah.
If there was a the and he didn't write the.
Okay, all right.
That would be a valid thing, right? So adding the is also. You can't just like err on the safe side and put the everywhere.
I get it. Ratify it. Ratify the challenge.
You want to challenge it?
Yep.
All right. They're going to challenge it. All right. So they're challenging. Challenge on the table is that it is not the Surrogates. It's not the Surrogates. So we are going to challenge it, and we will be right back in just a moment here. We are coming back from the challenge, going to bring all the parties at hand back from the challenge. Mark, go ahead.
All right. After conferring with the judges about the question about the article, The Surrogates, the way that we have gauged this in previous iterations of a similar query is that if there's another movie called The Surrogates, then the question would be ruled as Kevin Smets answering it incorrectly. However, there is not another movie called The Surrogates. There is a film called The Surrogate, and there is Surrogates. It is also based off of a comic called The Surrogates.
Which is my problem. I understand where you're going with this, but if that's the name of the
Please
comic...
let me make my ruling before I get interrupted. So the ruling is going to be that the challenge will not be upheld. Kevin Smets does get the point for writing The Surrogates.
Yeah, we're not ruling it because of the comic book. We're ruling it because of the article. There's no other movie called Surrogates, so we are giving the challenge.
But the precedent has been if it's just a 2-word movie or a single word movie with the in it, and you don't write the, you get it regardless of whether a movie without the exists or not. That's what the precedent has been. and that foot was mentioned in the New York Live event last season in the match Chance against Janine the Machine. And are we changing precedent during the match?
What I would like to do,
I've seen
to be honest,
challenge the and not get it.
To be honest with everybody here watching both the live stream and the competitors and the managers, what I would like to do, to be honest, is we made our ruling. That is our ruling. If it appeases everyone watching, I would like to have one more challenge card played, and I'd like to consult another round with the judges.
I'm fine with that.
All right.
Please run the card. Thank you.
All right, we're coming back again here, and we are going to Mark Ellis. Go ahead.
That is right. After conferring with the judges once again and the snoring dog in the background, first of all, I apologize to all the competitors and the managers and the fans in the chat, is that we only have a very limited time to discuss challenges. And in this particular matter, I felt it was warranted, after hearing the case fully, to go back and revisit the challenge. Here's what we have come up with. Because the Movie Trivia Schmodown, while we have not officially published a comprehensive rule book as of now, however, we have set precedents, not just in studio matches, but in live events. One of the precedents that has been set in matches and in years past, both on stage and in studio, is that when it comes to a 2-word movie title, articles are important. The focus is usually whether you have the in there in the case of The Thing. This was the inverse of that, where Surrogates was the correct answer, although it was based on the comic The Surrogates. Kevin Smets did write down The Surrogates, and that, because it is a 2-word title, is technically an incorrect answer. It's heartbreaking to make this ruling either way, but the proper ruling is that Chandru's and Winston's Team Swag challenge is upheld, and Kevin Smets does not get the point on the question.
So there you go. And the ruling was pretty much the second ruling was pretty much exactly as it states in the rule book now. If we go to the same page on the rule book, it says any movie title that is longer than 2 words and includes the word the as the first word in its title can be answered with any variable of including the or excluding it from the title. However, when it comes to 2-word titles or 1-word titles, you have to get the movie exactly correct. Sorry, but that's, and also the article, you can't add an article. So they say thing, like for 2-word titles, you need to be exact. Thing would be incorrect. The Thing would be correct. In this case, you had, what was the name of the movie? I'm blanking here.
The Surrogate.
Yes, Surrogates was the answer. He added the. You can't add an article, and that will be even more clear if we are to understand the new rule book correctly when we see it. That you can't add a word the if the word the is not present. So if it was a longer title, we would advise, I guess, players, if I were a manager, if you're not sure if there's a the at the beginning, don't include it, because you will get credit for the answer if the answer has the and you don't add it, but you won't get credit if the word doesn't have the and you do add it. So if you're not sure if the answer is, let's say, The Surrogates Part 2 was Surrogates Part 2 was a movie. If you said The Surrogates Part 2, you would get it wrong. So just say Surrogates Part 2. But the other interesting thing is the reverse of this, because it's IG. So, and also the interesting thing besides that is Chandru getting kind of, some would say, 2 bites at the apple. So what is your opinion on having an incorrect ruling the first time, but then he reiterates his challenge, which that was the thing, is the rulebook previously did not give, there was no rulebook to say he should get an argument the first time to fully explain his challenge. So what's your opinion on kind of like being able to challenge twice there?
first and foremost, I want to say that upon rewatching this, I love how Ellis handled it. He was extremely generous when he did not need to be. So yeah, dude, you get a challenge. They discuss it. They come back with a ruling, and that should be that. Now, I mean, and I don't fault Chandra for continuing to, try to explain, better explain his position. Has nothing to do with that, but Ellis went above and beyond by taking another look at it. So yeah, I mean, he was extremely generous there, and then overturning the previous decision upon the second. So, I mean, basically, there were two challenges there, which is kind of not cool. But I mean,
Yeah, so Chandra was able to use the precedent of a previous match between, I believe, Chance Ellison and Janine, because there was no written rule book to say that that's what he was using for his challenge. Which, this is why it's good to have a rule book, so then you don't need to make clear why you're making this challenge, and also why the rule book says that the challenger should have the ability to make their full challenge and explain why they're making this challenge, and the other person should be able to have a full rebuttal.
Yeah, if Chandra would have, if Chandra would have presented the precedent argument the first time, he probably would have won the challenge the first time.
Exactly, which is
kind of on him and Winston as far as them being manager and player. I mean, you're in the moment, dude. You can't expect to have everything on your mind in the moment. It happens, but if he had given that argument in the first, he would have won the challenge the first time. He just really lucked out that Ellis took another look at it. So
now, what I think is also interesting, and just a thought exercise, is let's say the answer was actually the surrogates, and it was Chandra who was wrong, and we're going to ignore the 2-word versus many-word thing just for this thought exercise. What would you think if somebody's rebuttal to a challenge of you didn't put the for surrogates and it should have a the, is that we're in IG and there's only one film on the list that is surrogates?
See, that's always been a tricky one for me, because before the rule book, it used to be Thing is probably the best example that we can use for this. Before the rule book, if you would have said they wanted Thing and you said Thing, or say they wanted the Thing and you just put Thing, they would accept it. And if it was challenged, then they would overturn it because there were two different movies, one the Thing, one Thing. You see what I'm saying now?
Let's say, for example, in your example, that there was only one of those two movies was in IG. See, that's
like you said, that's a great brain exercise. It isn't sci-fi considered a part of Inner Geekdom?
Yes, but they have a very specific list. So
you know
what? I'll just have anybody who wants to respond to me in any fashion, tweet at me, whatever. Just tell me your opinions on that. And I think that's an interesting discussion, especially since Bibiani said this year that it might depend on whether or not IG movies or Star Wars. He says there's more lax rules for Star Wars. You don't need to say Episode 4, A New Hope. If you just write down A New Hope, everybody knows what movie you're talking about if you're in the Star Wars category. So that would be an interesting thing to think about. So those were the two big challenges, one in each match. And we'll see in Smets versus Chandra 3 if there's another big controversy that also might turn the tide of the match. You never know.
Laura Kelly, hello, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm amazing. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Thank you. It's good to talk to you again, especially with Schmodown Season 9 around the corner here. Not going to get too much into specifics of what's going on. I'm sure you probably can't and don't want to talk about it. And to be honest, I'm so excited for the Season 9. I'm kind of wanting to go into it like I do movies, where I know nothing about it until I find out when it happens in front of me. I'm very excited for this new season. But there is one thing specifically concerning Schmodown that I'm interested in, not just with you, but all the competitors. For you, though, it's been almost 3 years since you've made your debut in the Fatal 5-Way number one contender match for the Star Wars belt. You went up against Joseph Scrimshaw, Molly Damon, Andrew DiMolante, and Andrew Blanchard in that. Now, over the last 3 years, what are some unexpected benefits that have come your way, and perhaps some unexpected drawbacks as well from your time in the Schmodown?
You know, it's hard to think of like drawbacks because it's off the top of my head. Like I really can't think of anything, and I think I've been really lucky in that respect because you know I've said this before, but like there are a lot of women in this game who have like paved the way and have walked so that I could run, and endured a lot of crap, I think, that I have fortunately really not experienced too much of. So I'm really grateful for that. But that's really the only thing I could imagine would have been a drawback, but I just haven't encountered that. So I think maybe the only other the only other drawback is like time. I'm like, when the amount of time that it sucks up, especially like in the Star Wars division, when you really have to like hunker down and focus in on this one like minute thing, that it can be a total time suck. So that's maybe one drawback, but you know, the reason we do it is because we like it and we like learning these things. Any player who doesn't is in the wrong game. So I think in that respect, you know, as long as I can keep that in perspective and remember to have fun with this, then it doesn't have to be a drawback and it can just be another advantage.
That sounds good. Because I mean, I would imagine a lot of folks in the Schmodown, time would be the biggest issue. You know, because I mean, they're your regular job. A lot of folks have families, spouses, children. I could imagine time would, a lot of folks, time's probably the only drawback, you know. But what an amazing thing to be a part of, you know. It just, I can't imagine personally. What about any benefits from it? Anything that you can think of that perhaps wouldn't have come about if you hadn't started in the Schmodown?
Well, I don't think that the show with John Roca would have become a thing if I had never done anything with the Schmodown, because I'm sure that's how he found me. But like I would have never imagined that I would get a message from him one random day wanting to talk to me about like collaborating on a project. And now here we are, and he and I have been doing the Jedi Way on his channel for who knows how long now. I can't keep anything in perspective with the pandemic. So it's that's been a really fun, a really new fun way for me to like meet new people and have another outlet for, you know, this need to constantly be thinking and talking about Star Wars. It just gives me another creative outlet, and a different one than I have with the Schmodown, or even with the podcast that I do with my friend Alice. It's like, it's such a different show. To be able to, in a different sort of skill set that I had to very quickly get on top of when it came to like, oh, I don't have to just do audio and just sit in my room in my PJs. Like I can, in no makeup, I have to like learn how to do all of this other stuff so that I can be on camera and be comfortable with it. And that took a little while, but it's been really fun. And so I think that's the biggest benefit, has been this like community of people that I've been able to surround myself with, be it, you know, the other Star Wars competitors, or, you know, the factions that I've played on, or even just the people around all of that. It's been amazing, because when I think about 2020 and how hard that year was for everyone, I sometimes like, I don't know if I would have made it without like my faction that year, without corruption and being able to like get online with them as often as I wanted to. However many times a week to sit down and just talk about like geeky news type of stuff or talk about Star Wars. And sometimes we would study, sometimes we would not. Sometimes it was just hanging out. And honestly, it's really hard to imagine getting through how difficult that year was without them. So it's been just the community aspect of it, I think, has been huge for me.
And right into some Star Wars here, because we've got the Book of Boba Fett, and it's just about to wrap up. This is pre-recorded here, so I'll go ahead and we get the finale tomorrow, and I'm excited for it. But there's one thing I and feel free to give your thoughts on Book of Boba Fett. That's fine. However, that's not what I'm interested in from you. What I would like to know is, based on your knowledge of Star Wars and its story, if you were in charge of the overall storytelling for the Mandalorian universe, this shared universe of TV shows, how would you like to see all of this play out over the next several seasons, or a couple seasons at least?
It's hard to narrow that down, because I think if I was in charge of anything, I would be doing what Lucasfilm is doing, and I would just be like hiring the best people to do the best things, and paying Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau whatever they wanted to just keep them around. Because I've really enjoyed what they've done so far. I think, when I think about where I want to see it go, the first thing that sort of comes to mind is the Ahsoka show, because I think that's one of the things I'm most excited for. Like, seeing her show up in The Mandalorian and like seeing her lightsabers like in live action was just so next level for me. It was so exciting. And so I'm hoping that there's one thing that I'm hoping to get out of that show, and it's actually that I kind of hope that it's not, the entire show isn't the hunt for Ezra and Thrawn. I kind of am hoping that's just maybe like a little piece of it and not the entire thing, because I'm kind of hoping that hunt for Ezra and Thrawn in Star Wars happens in animated form. I would really like to get like a Rebels sequel that's animated, where they're out searching for him. I don't know if I necessarily need that in live action, but we'll see. I say that now, and if that ends up being what Ahsoka is, I'll probably love it anyway. But I'd be really curious to see if there actually is anything in develop. It would have to be in development now, I imagine, for them to announce at any time in the next 2 years. But like, if they were to announce any kind of animated show that would coincide with what's happening in the Mandalorian universe in this time period, it would be such a cool way, I think, to like bring Star Wars fans into the world of animation, particularly this more like casual fans that are kind of just coming back to Star Wars because the Mandalorian was so good. And if you could tie them and like get them to watch the animation, and they could go in and watch the Clone Wars and Rebels and like get the feel for how amazing that storytelling is, that would be something I would be really excited about. That would be how I would want to play it if I were in charge of anything. But beyond that, I'm like, just hire the best people to do the best work, and that's what they're doing. So I don't have a whole lot of changes to suggest.
Yeah, it's going amazing so far. I literally feel like I'm back in my childhood. When I watch Boba Fett or Mandalorian shows, it's an amazing feeling. They're doing great. And like you said, it would be great if more people could put some more attention toward the animated stuff. Not only it's visually amazing, the storytelling is great, but there's so much information that you get from there that if you know it while you're watching these new shows and stuff like that, it enhances it even more. And that just would be so great also. Another thing I'd like to ask you real quick about these shows, because we've got Obi-Wan coming out this year. Now, obviously, you just talked highly of the Ahsoka series coming up. Is that your most anticipated Disney Plus Star Wars series, or is it maybe just you're looking forward to it, but you have another one that you're just chomping at the bit for even more?
Not really knowing anything about what the Ahsoka show is going to be about, it's hard to be the most excited about that. Like, we kind of know what the Mandalorian season 3 is gonna, or we have some idea probably of what the Mandalorian season 3 is going to be, and so I'm probably more excited for that, to be honest. I mean, getting to see whatever happens with the Darksaber play out, whatever happens with Bo-Katan, and like trying to revive Mandalore in some way. I don't know if Din Djarin's going to try to go to Mandalore to get into these living waters beneath the mines of whatever, if that's going to, like, if we're going to get to see something like that play out, because that seems really cool. So I think just kind of having the context of the Mandalorian and kind of knowing what to expect, I'm really excited for that. So that's going to be, I mean, obviously I think it's later this year. They're going to be putting that show out, but I know that my creative partner on my podcast, Alice, is most excited for this Obi-Wan show because she loves Ewan McGregor. So I'm excited to see her be so excited about Star Wars and to get to like talk about that show with her when it starts airing. Like, and I'm really hoping that that's happening soon. I mean, rumor has it that it's going to be May. So fingers crossed that it's then or maybe even sooner, because that's going to be really fun, I think, for me to get to sit and talk all that out with her, to see her get really excited about Star Wars again. Since the prequels are kind of her thing in her area of expertise, I think that she's excited to sort of get back into something that's closer to that era.
That's awesome. I can't wait either. And I can't wait for you because I know you're a huge Star Wars fan. Laura Kelly, thank you so much for your time here. We got season 9. I mean, it's coming up very soon. Good luck to you wherever you land, whatever you end up doing. It's going to be awesome, I'm sure. And good luck to you in this upcoming season of the Schmodown.
Thank you so much.
Hello, it's Liam and Ben here from Euroschmo with our brand new segment, Euroschmo's Top 3. So we're going to discuss top 3 moments from different parts of the Schmodown every week right here on Speaking of Schmodown. And we thought as the new season is getting underway, perfect one to start with would be the top 3 season opening matches. So we had some discussion earlier and we've narrowed it down to our favourite 3. And Ben's going to kick us off with our number 3 spot. So Ben, what do we have at 3?
Number 3, we have the double bill of Molly Damon versus Laura Kelly, and Mara Knopic versus Chandru, which that and another match last year were about as excited as I could be for any Schmodown match, and for the winner as well. I damn near broke my elbow screaming for Mara when she won.
It was such a cool moment, wasn't it? And I screenshotted this part of the match when Mara won at the end, and everyone was so happy. She had been away from the game for 2 years, or was it 2 years? Or I can't remember exactly. But she came back and took the title, and I don't think most people had Chandru in this one, so it was such a cool moment. And what a way to start last year's season. Obviously, we'd been online for a while with COVID, so we weren't sure how it would work, but to have this as our opener, it was such a good start to the season last year, so we felt like we had to include it as one of our 3. And it was also paired with, obviously, Molly and Laura as well, which was a real fun Star Wars match to open.
And I was so willing for Molly to win, and I was so on the edge of my seat throughout that, from start to finish, because she looked like she could come from behind and just win it. But Laura was just lights out, as her moniker goes. Excuse the pun.
No, I love it. So that was our number 3, and that was last year's season opener. So we're now going to move on to our number 2. Now, this one was quite a unique match, but a real fun one to get the season started. Now, Schmodown was in full flow at this point, and season 5's opener began with a triple threat match of JTE, Rachel Cushin, and Mike the Killer Kalinowski. And it was such a fun triple threat match, and my favorite competitor of all time. So I am a little bit biased on this one because Rachel is my favorite. Absolutely smashed the boys, showed them how to do it, and it was just a really entertaining match to watch and a great opener to the season. So Ben, what were your thoughts on this one?
This was amazing. It showed just what your Rachel could do in singles. Kind of led her up nicely for that title match against Sam, which was an amazing match as well. But yeah, it kind of showed off what she could do and was just fantastic from start to finish.
Yeah,
She
I mean,
definitely crushed the competition.
we knew Rachel was a fantastic Inner Geekdom player at this point, and she had proven that she was a great singles player as well. Obviously, she was in one of the best teams of all time with Shire Wolves, but this was really her coming through in singles. And obviously, we know how it turned out in the end. She didn't quite get that win against Sam, but this was probably one of her best moments in her singles career, and it was such a good way to begin the season of season 5. So we have one more to get to, which is our number 1. I wonder if you have any ideas what it may be. We were pretty much in agreement straight away, weren't we, Ben, of this one? I think when I suggested it, you were like, yeah, that's the one. And I think actually it might be a little surprising for some people. But we are going back to season 3, and the season opener of this one was John Campea versus Dan Murrell. So we are going back quite a few seasons ago now. The reason we decided this was our number 1 was because we feel this is the moment the Schmodown changed. This is when it became part of Collider. I think this is when it became part of more people's world. More people started to become aware of it. More important than that, I think it set the precedent for what the Schmodown is. Leading up to the game, we had Campea and Murrell like doing Twitter insults and having video sent to each other. And it was like, oh, okay, I get what the Schmodown is now. And also it was the start of the greatest player of all time's career. So John Campea, no, I'm joking. Dan Murrell. So, it was just really exciting to see this guy who we didn't know what he could do. I mean, to be fair, he kind of smashed John in the match. Sorry, John. And then we look back now and we're not surprised that happened because it's Dan Murrell, but we didn't know how great it could be at the time. So what did you think about this one, Ben?
I mean, it showed how dangerous Dan Murrell is, to be fair. And he's been dangerous ever since. We saw him the season prior in a tag team with Riley, but this was just showed off just how much knowledge this guy has when it comes to movies. And it wasn't quite the same format we have today, but it was still an amazing match, and you just see how much knowledge both of these men have, and it was fantastic. The rivalry between the two leading up to this was awesome, and if this is how it's going to be this year, I can't wait.
Yeah, this is what got me interested and involved with the Schmodown. This is how I found out about the Schmodown. I then went back and watched this tournaments before. This was for me my in. So this is partly why I have a soft spot for it, because this is what got me so interested in the Schmodown. And then from this we started to get some other characters come through. The Rokers of the world and the Clark Wolves, and the character work I think started mainly from this match, and then we had the greats come later. So for us, we felt like it had to be our number 1 because we think this was the season opener which really set the precedent for what the Schmodown would become in the future. So we have John Campea versus Dan Murrell as our number 1 season opener. Number 2, we had the triple threat of JTE, Rachel Cushin, and Mike Kalinowski. And our number 3 was last year's double bill of Mara Canopik, Chandru in a Geekdom title, and Molly Damon v Laura Kelly in Star Wars. We'd love to know if you agree with us, if you think our decisions were terrible. We just want to hear. We want to hear what you think the best season openers are. So please comment on this show or let us know on Euroschmo. I'd love to have a debate with you about it, and I'm sure Ben would as well. So thanks so much for listening. We look forward to doing this segment every week. And you can catch Euroschmo every Sunday, 8 p.m. UK time, and whatever that may be in US time, I don't know.
12 p.m. PST.
Thanks so much, Ben. This is why Ben is the star of Euroschmo. Thanks so much. We shall see you next week. Bye-bye.
Right now, everybody, I'm just going to give my quick thoughts. I took the off season off to retool this show here. I'm very pleased with it. I hope you all like it as well. Have some other rotating segments that I'm really excited to present to everyone. That will they'll come and go. whenever it's called for. But I never got a chance to speak my thoughts on the Spectacular, this most recent Spectacular 6, and I'm going to do that now, everybody. I was so excited when I watched this, and I was on such a high and such a rush when it was over. It took everything I had not to message out to Christian and tell him what I'm about to say now, because I cannot express the feelings I had. The closest I can do is to say that I felt like I did when I first discovered the movie Trivia Schmodown. The feel was back, the entertainment aspect and the storylines and the excitement was in the air. It had that old school feeling. Now, yes, I'm a big sports guy. We all know that. And we know that my take last season on the Schmodown was a sports angle. That was because according to what Christian was putting out, the content of Schmodown, it was predominantly sports side kind of. And that's why I had that angle, because that's what it mostly was. And now we're getting a swing back to the more sports entertainment, and less percentage of the sports, which is fine. However, dude, I trust Christian with this. Always have. That's why I'm a fan of not only the Schmodown, but him and his other content. And I'm on board, and I'm along for the ride for whatever he chooses to do with the Schmodown. I will forever be excited and interested in it. But we're moving away from the sports angle, so that I'm not going to be approaching it from the sports angle. I'm going to be approaching it from how it's presented now, and I'm looking forward to talking about that. I'm looking forward to talking a little bit more about the rogue players and the teams and the storylines. I hope the Schmominati comes into play again big time this season. What do you call them? Forgive me here. The cutscenes. Boom, got it. The cutscenes, I missed those so much. I'm looking forward to jumping right back into all that stuff. I think overall, yeah, Christian and the entire Schmodown team did an excellent job in the digital age. And like Christian said on Rundown the other night, got some of the best matches, if not the best matches to date, via digital matches. But it's going to be amazing to get back in studio. The entrances are what I'm looking forward to the most. You hear that music play, and you don't know how they're going to come in. It's just that kind of stuff. I'm really looking forward to it, and I don't know. It made me feel so just excited and like a kid again, even though I'm 42 years old and I discovered the Schmodown like 7 years ago. 8 years ago. So I feel like a mid-30s kid, and it's amazing. I'm really looking forward to this. I'm so stoked about the announcement we're going to get in a few days at the pay-per-view, as to how everyone's backs are going to be scratched, and getting more details there. I predict that Adam Witt will definitely have his own faction. And I'm looking forward to that. Who knows how many people it could be? It could just be him and 2 other people. Who cares? I'm looking forward to player managers. I would love Team Action to get back together at some point this season. That would be amazing. That would be really cool. I'm so excited about this upcoming season, and I'm so thankful to you, Christian, and Mark. Great work on Spectacular 6. And to everyone who contributes to the Schmodown, the question writing team, amazing. I've said it before, I'll say it again. You guys are doing such a great job. I don't even try to play along anymore, which is fine with me. Yes, I had a great time when I used to play along, because I had a shot at getting some of the answers. These questions are so great, and it's not just the difficulty level, but I noticed this last season, it's the wording in the questions, and then the order in which questions are asked is also something that's just absolutely brilliant. It's such a great thing, and the entire production team. everyone from the ground up to the ceiling. Personally, from me to you all, thank you very much for making me feel this way again about Schmodown. Again, I love sports. I loved the sports angle. We're not there anymore, and I'm on the wagon, man. I'm just along for the ride, and I'm ready to see where it goes. So again, thank you all. Thank you, Christian, Mark, the entire Schmodown team, everyone over there, Skybound, everyone involved, the players, the managers, you viewers. Thank you for checking out this new phase of Speaking of Schmodown. I'm very excited for it. And yeah, y'all know the drill, man. Until next week, everyone, please have a great and safe night. You want to hear something funny? The mic wasn't on that whole time.
No way.
Yeah, for real.
Oh, wow.
So smooth.